In the first chapter of the book of 1 Kings in the Old Testament, the Bible introduces us to Abishag, a young Shunammite woman who took care of King David in his old age. While the biblical text does not provide extensive details about Abishag's background, her involvement in the context of Adonijah's death and her role as David's companion have sparked scholarly debates. In this article, we will delve into the various interpretations surrounding the nature of the relationship between King David and Abishag, exploring possible roles she may have played and dispelling unfounded speculations. Abishag, whose name's meaning is uncertain, is described as a young virgin from Shunem, a city located southwest of the Sea of Galilee in the territory of the tribe of Issachar. Some scholars suggest that the terms Shunammite and Shulamite might be equivalent in the biblical text due to the apparent swapping of the letters L and N in ancient materials. If this hypothesis holds true, both terms would refer to a woman from Shunem. However, it is important to note that the idea of Abishag being the Shulamite woman mentioned in the Song of Solomon lacks evidence and is considered highly unlikely by most interpreters. According to the biblical account, Abishag was a beautiful woman who was chosen to care for King David in his final years. As David struggled to stay warm, his servants searched throughout the kingdom of Israel for a young maiden who could provide warmth by lying in his arms. Abishag was the young virgin selected for this role. She attended to David's needs and served him faithfully. It is worth mentioning that Abishag was present when the Queen Mother Bathsheba reminded David of the oath he made regarding Solomon's succession to the throne. After King David's death, Adonijah, one of David's sons, approached Bathsheba, interceding with Solomon to grant him Abishag as his wife. Adonijah's request carried significant implications, as in the ancient Near East, taking a woman who had belonged to a deceased king as a wife implied a claim to the throne. Solomon interpreted Adonijah's request as a challenge to his authority and saw it as an attempt to seize the throne. Consequently, Solomon ordered Adonijah's execution. Scholars have debated the true position of Abishag in relation to King David. Some argue that she was a concubine or secondary wife, while others suggest that she was merely David's companion and caretaker without being his wife. The biblical text explicitly states that David and Abishag did not have relations. Therefore, it is plausible that Abishag's role was primarily that of a caregiver, tasked with providing comfort and warmth to the aging king, rather than fulfilling the duties of a wife. The relationship between King David and Abishag has long intrigued scholars due to the enigmatic biblical text surrounding their association. Two primary factors contribute to the complexity of this discussion. Firstly, the biblical account in 1 Kings 1:4 explicitly states that King David did not have intimate relations with Abishag. This raises questions about whether she could be considered David's wife. On the other hand, Abishag's involvement in Adonijah's request and the subsequent reactions of Solomon imply a deeper connection. In this article, we will delve into these factors, examining the textual evidence and scholarly interpretations to shed light on the mysterious relationship between King David and Abishag. In 1 Kings 1:4, the biblical text describes Abishag as a fair maiden who cherished and ministered to King David. However, it explicitly states that the king knew her not. This phrase signifies that David did not possess Abishag as a woman, indicating the absence of intimate relations between them. This information supports the notion that Abishag may not have been considered one of David's wives. The absence of a conjugal relationship between them suggests that her role may have been more akin to a companion or caregiver, rather than a formal wife. The connection between Abishag and Adonijah's death offers further insight into their relationship. When Adonijah approached Bathsheba, requesting Abishag as his wife, Solomon interpreted this as a direct challenge to his authority and claim to the throne. Solomon saw Adonijah's request as an attempt to seize the kingdom through marriage to a woman who had belonged to the deceased king. This understanding aligns with the ancient Near Eastern practice, wherein taking a deceased king's woman as a wife implied a claim to the throne. Solomon's severe reaction, ordering Adonijah's execution, indicates that he considered Abishag to hold a significant position, potentially as a wife or concubine, despite the lack of intimate relations with David. Scholars have grappled with the precise nature of Abishag's relationship with King David, considering the contradictory biblical evidence. One interpretation posits that Abishag was merely a caretaker or nurse for David in his old age, with no formal marital status. This perspective emphasizes the phrase "the king knew her" not as evidence of their non-sexual relationship. However, this interpretation fails to account for the weight Solomon placed on Adonijah's request, suggesting a more substantial connection between Abishag and David. Another prevalent interpretation argues that Abishag, while not engaging in sexual relations with David, held the status of a wife or concubine. This view aligns with Solomon's response to Adonijah's request, as he saw it as a threat to his reign. Solomon's vehement reaction implies that Abishag's association with David carried significant implications for the succession to the throne. While Abishag's role may have been primarily non-sexual, she likely enjoyed a symbolic and legal position as David's wife or concubine. The relationship between King David and Abishag remains a captivating enigma within biblical scholarship. While the biblical text explicitly states that David did not have intimate relations with Abishag, it also hints at a deeper connection through Abishag's association with Adonijah's request. Scholars have interpreted this evidence in various ways, with some favoring the idea that Abishag was merely a caregiver or companion, and others positing that she held the status of a wife or concubine. The complexity and ambiguity of the biblical narrative surrounding Abishag leave room for ongoing discussions and interpretations. Further exploration of historical and cultural contexts may provide additional insights into the nature of this mysterious relationship.